We're here, Jeff Monroe. I am so honored to introduce you to Albert Williams of Best Deal Car Service. Don't know if it's the first time meeting. And you're here with Dr. Ed Lowe, who seems to know as much as a man of 200 years. And listening to him, it sounds like Hugh Campbell is older than I think. Listening to Dr. Lowe, we don't know the age. I mean, Senator Jamal Bailey and Albert Williams was so happy to say I'm 46 and I'm 39, the young age. But it
You
seems
are.
like I don't know, Dr. Lowe, you're a man. You take the DA back to some years, and to be here with Albert Williams, I was telling him he got to drive the Bronx Borough president to the city and to the Bronx. But it seems to me you're the man that needs the drive.
Well, of one of your sponsors, McCall's Funeral Home.
Yes, McCall's Bronx.
My mother was the lawyer who incorporated them, the original McCalls, when they were down on Prospect Avenue, where they started.
Wow, small world. You see what we're talking about? You never know who, Jeff. In a time like this, we got to pay attention. Now you know the young man from the Bronx, Mr. Albert William from Best Deal Car Service. So when you need to go anywhere and you have a hard time, you just call up Albert and take it from me. He's going to make sure that the hands are even sanitized. And the car seats are sanitized. So I don't know how he do it. And I sometimes ask him, do you sleep? But this is the work of the Bronx and the people that are doing it now and making it happen. So what do you have to say, Mr. Lowe, to a man like Albert Williams? So he learn
Look, my grandfather used to put it very simply: 4 wheels beats 2 heels. All right. And I followed his advice. I ride with my car with no one in the front seat who was not invited. In other words, he paid cash for his cars. I pay cash for mine. And all you got to do is take care of it. Put oil in the engine at frequent intervals, and don't let anything get out of hand. Because little problems can become big problems if you ignore them.
Albert?
I think that statement is more than you're referring to life, not cars.
Both.
Right? I'm smart enough to know that cars is a metaphor. Yeah, I'm smart enough to realize that you're referring to life, not cars.
Oh, okay.
Your health,
Okay, Albert, you pick it up.
Yeah,
I was late. I was late.
Yeah, no, but that's what it's all about. That's what King's Dream was about, right? You pick it up in different metaphors. You could use a metaphor. I don't know any metaphor that doesn't apply to what King says, right? And to our to listeners and the rest of the panel, from King's I've been to the mountain speech, right? Is a part where we have to be true. Our leaders have to be true to what we put on paper, right? Our politicians, our elected officials, our civic leaders, our business leaders, our attorneys, our friends, our family. We have to be true to what we put on paper. And that's something that, that's a metaphor that we should take into consideration and think about for the next couple of days as you watch and you watch the world in which we live and evolve, right? So we put it on paper, we got to be true to it. But a dream is not a dream can't be real until it's written down. An idea, it's not it's just an idea until it's on paper. When it's on paper, you start a dream, right? And we just got to be true to what we put on paper. Using the words of Dr. King. Jeff?
If you can dream and not let dreams become your master, that's the key. You've got to act on them. In my life, I've had 4 opportunities to encounter Dr. King, 3 of which were at my church. I'm a member of the Riverside Church, and I was there each time he preached. When he preached his Beyond Vietnam, and two earlier sermons. But I was at the March on Washington in '63. The night before that march, I was part of the youth group. We were preparing box lunches to take for the marchers, or to give to the marchers. And my mom got me a ticket with my uncle. Hugh knows my uncle, recently deceased, to ride down to DC with the Guardians. The Guardians are the black police officers at NYPD, and they were marshals for the march. So I was there to hear the "I Have a Dream" speech in person.
Wow. Could you imagine sitting here with someone who says, I was there to hear the "I Had a Dream" speech? Now, when I was born, I didn't know anything about it until until we start going to school and studying these things. But you were there, and you're still here today to talk about it. And you said 1963?
Yes, ma'am. August 28th, 1963.
So, Albert, you wasn't around then.
No, ma'am.
I doubt if any of you
I
were
doubt
around.
Jeff, I don't think you was around then, were you?
That was 7 years prior to my existence.
Yeah, I was 14 at the time. Yeah, you got something.
Dr. Hugh Campbell, you're muted, it seems. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say one thing, and I think when we look at Dr. Lowe's history in terms of giving back and engagement and Dr. King's dream, one of the things I will say, because he probably will not say it, but as much as we've been impacted by COVID, one of the things that Dr. Lowe was doing last year was he was actually very much in the parks in New York City, encouraging folks to get COVID testing and COVID vaccines because of his medical profession. So I think he is still on the ground, doing work in our community, which is very, very critical and very important. And I think when we celebrate Dr. King, it just shows that, we all cannot stop working and dreaming and delivering.
Listen, Albert, I always say I'm tired, and maybe I got to get in the gym, because if you say last year Dr. Lowe was down in the park encouraging people and doing all this work, and I'm sitting here saying I'm tired, I got to get in the gym.
I wasn't just encouraging them; I was doing the testing.
He was doing the testing.
Right.
Well, I'm telling you, man, Albert, you gotta find out more about Dr. Lowe and what he's eating and what he's doing, so we can one day say, we back in 2022. So people say 2022, you was around then, because to hear you say 1963, you was doing this, and you heard Martin Luther King's speech. We are only hearing the speech and reading about it. You were there.
Yeah, well, I was there in '69 when we took over City College and turned it into Harlem U and brought open enrollment to the City University with the 5 demands.
I'm telling you, well, tonight's show is all about leadership and how far we have come. And we came after you, Dr. Lowe. We continue to walk in your shoe.
Well, I walked in the shoes of giants, and I try to fit.
Jeff, I know you're doing a lot in Mount Vernon, and I'm telling you, we got to learn from some of these great leaders, and don't know if we'll ever walk in their shoe. I know tonight, if it wasn't for this show, Albert will be home sleeping, getting his rest. I think I'm going to pay a price for keeping everyone up late tonight, but it was worth it. It was worth the dream.
I'm a night owl, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Albert will forgive me, because we learn a lot tonight.
As my father said, If you sleep 8 hours a day, you've slept 1/3 of your life away by the time you hit your grave. You got forever to sleep. Okay?
I figured that one out.
But make your hay while while your sun shines. And as that old spiritual says, I ain't no ways tired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come too far. Mhm.
Okay, but we've still got much farther to go. And you got to remember, it's the same old song, but just a different set, meaning, because we'll be gone. Okay. Every generation is going to be fighting, the same fight. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And we have to be on guard and be ready to stand up and fight for what's right. And it's going to be, I'm handing it off to my granddaughter in a couple of years. It'll be her fight. Right now, it's our fight. And, we got to fix what's going on down there in Washington right now. That's it.
Yep.
And I think Albert is fighting now for his daughters, for his future generation. They will continue to fight. So that's why we have to teach them. We have to educate them. If not, the fight can't continue if they don't know what they're fighting for.
I grew up with, my mother was the president of the Bronx NAACP. And I grew up fighting the fight there for as long as I can remember. My late sister was the executive director of New York City Environmental Justice Alliance here in New York. She went on to do environmental law with all over the country. My other sister is with the Treasury Department, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, catching guys like Trump. now that we've got the crooks out of the executive branch, the money launderers.
Oh man, it is so much that we could stay here and talk about tonight. And I think Dr. Lowe, I have to bring you back one night with just you and I and attorney Hugh Campbell, because I always have to keep the attorney next to me. That in case I get out of line, hear it firsthand before the lawsuit,
Well, my dad used to say to me when my mom was giving me the business, don't make admissions without benefit of counsel. You need a good lawyer?
You have to have a good lawyer. You have to.
And shut up until the lawyer comes.
Absolutely.
If I'd like to interject something, because I'm inspired by something Dr. Lowe said a couple minutes ago, and it occurs to me that of any one of us here, he's probably most qualified to give some insight on what he considers as any progress, if any, that we've made since that Beyond Vietnam speech that Dr. King made. That you said you were in the audience. I can imagine that it must be a huge kind of historical weight and almost like an epiphany to consider the things that he fought against then and was so unpopular about. I mean, he was so unpopular that people really did not consider him a hero at the time that he made that speech. And here we are in 2022 fighting the same things that he fought against then: militarism, racism, capitalism. He wanted a systemic change. How do you, Dr. Lowe, feel considering that we're still fighting that fight, as you say?
You're going to be fighting, like the poor. It'll be with you forever. Okay, it's new with each generation. Okay, I mean, yeah, people don't realize that King was not popular. Malcolm was not popular. You know, Malcolm sat at our dinner table once or twice. My sister got into a argument with Malcolm on the corner of 125th Street and 8th Avenue. He made some statement and she didn't agree with him. And they met up again when he was coming back from the Hajj, and she was with my grandmother in Egypt on a trip to the Holy Land. And they became close friends.
Was she in more agreement with him by 1964 or 65?
It wasn't a disagreement in principle. It was a disagreement in detail. Okay. I was a student at PNS when Malcolm. No, I just graduated when Malcolm was shot. Right across the street from Presbyterian Hospital.
So Dr. Lowe, you said we're going to be fighting this fight for next generation. My question is why?
No, not just the next generation,
but
and the generation
forever.
forever.
The question is why?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because we take 5 steps forward and 3 steps backward. We've made a lot of progress from the time when my grandparents were alive. I look back over the history of just my mother's father's family. He bought himself out of slavery back in 1827. He bought his wife out of slavery. The joke was he was free, but she wasn't. Paid $300 for it. I got a copy of the bill of sale. Okay. So look, depending on how far your horizon is, you can see the progress. But a horizon is not, as Bill Coffin used to say, horizon is nothing more than the limit of your vision. And we have a limited vision of the progress that we're making. And if you watch the TV and listen to the news, the MSNBC, the CNN, everything is apocalyptic.
But Doc, let me ask you a question, Dr. Lowe. Do you think, from a historical standpoint, and I always feel that economic wealth is one of the foundation to a successful Black and brown community. Do you think Black folks are more independent economically now than when they were back in the days of the heart of the civil rights struggle?
Depends on, first of all, economic independence is segmental. The hoi polloi, the greater masses of our people, the African diaspora here in America, are not gonna benefit from economically. There are a group of us who are blessed and privileged to live a middle class or upper middle class existence.
Why won't the majority benefit?
Because of the way this country is structured. And it didn't start with this country. It goes back to Europe. It goes back to the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians. In every society, there's a group that will benefit, and there's and the greater masses will struggle.
But do you think if we start adopting a greater sense of sacrifice and start directing our finances in a more conscientious manner, that will change the direction?
You'll have what happened in Oklahoma, what happened in Florida. You know, they don't care how big, how close you get, just don't get too big. Okay.
No, I understand that, but if because we normally hear about who spends the most amount of money.
Yeah.
And if we go out and says we're going out on a, for example, Dr. King was at a, they were at a sanitation strike, worker strike.
Mm-hmm.
If we start saying we're not spending money, we're not doing certain things, we're not buying from this company, I'm going to walk 6 blocks down the street as opposed to supporting this company that doesn't support me, do you think that will change our outlook?
That's what
to live Dr. King's dream.
That's what made the Montgomery boycott work. Okay, Americans do not respond to anything until you pinch them in the pocketbook nerve.
So what do we as a people can do to be more conscientious about that tool that we have that we're not utilizing?
We've got to recirculate the dollar within our community. That's how we build our own wealth. I forget how many times it is, 6 times? It circulates?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. One of the greatest expected side of the quote integration movement was the destruction of the Black economy. When you were segregated, you don't do business with the Black barber, the Black lawyer, the Black, the Black this, the Black that. As soon as you were enabled to go outside of your community, our folks flew like a flock of pigeons. And there went the economic underpinning of our society. People laugh about the old Amos and Andy shows. You ever have any of you ever seen them?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
Okay. What was unique about that show? The lawyer was Black. The doctor was Black. Everybody, the policeman was Black. Everybody in that community, okay, you saw a whole community, and you saw role models for our people. Granted, they were clowns, but there was another message that could be taken from the old Amos and Andy show. And Kingfish was always he was a consummate entrepreneur. He was always scheming on some sort of business deal. So, I mean, we've got to support ourselves and support each other.
I think as an entrepreneur myself, I think that's key for our people to understand, right? We have to support entrepreneurship, right? We have to, it's I got 2 kids upstairs, right? I'm not going to tell them don't go to college, right? College is just good. College is not for everyone, but you don't necessarily need to go and work for someone, right? You could go out and scheme on that, as long as it's legal, right? As long as it's legal, you can go out and scheme on that, that deal, right? And I think our community, our people, we shy away from entrepreneurship, but we should run towards it.
Well, biggest problem is the issue of self-confidence.
Yeah.
It takes a hell of a lot of self-confidence. I mean, I, for one, was a victim of it. When I came out of active duty with the Navy, a friend and patient of mine offered me a place to start a practice. But I didn't have a dime to, 2 dimes to rub together, or as they used to say, a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of.
Throw it out of.
Okay. And I was afraid to take up the offer. Well, had I taken it, my office would have been right above the famous restaurant in Harlem on 123rd Street and Manhattan Avenue, Perks. But I backed away from it because I did not have the confidence that I could make it. It took me another 10 years.
So I think Avro
to start a private practice.
I think Avro for another show. I think it's a show on entrepreneurship, right? Everyone here is an entrepreneur, right? And there's probably, there's 5 of us here, right? And there's probably 55 people that are listening that thought about entrepreneurship, right? So we should really, to service the community and to serve, on King Day, like I think the DA said it, every day should be King Day. I think we do a show on entrepreneurship. Don't get me wrong, it's not glamorous, right? It's definitely not glamorous, right? I could promise you that. It's definitely not glamorous, right? But it is something that we need to, entrench in our communities, right? We need to build more entrepreneurs, to develop more entrepreneurs, to help more entrepreneurs. It's difficult. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
If I can give you another metaphor, I spent 21 years in the Navy as a Navy flight surgeon, and I've flown everything in the Navy's envelope, including jets, helicopters, etc. And there's nothing more that keeps you on the edge than flying what they call IFR in the clouds. If you can imagine driving down the road, you can't see the front of your car. Okay? That's what it's like. And being an entrepreneur is like always flying IFR.
IFR, into friendly fire?
Well, it means instrument flight rules.
Okay.
In other words, you're not flying because you can see. You're flying
Correct.
because you know where your compass is pointing, and you know what whether your bank turn and bank indicators are, and you have a clock, and it tells you how many knots you're going fast, and how long you're going.
Old school GPS.
What?
Old school GPS.
What? No GPS.
No, that was old school GPS.
There was no GPS. No, the old school anything. That was old school navigation.
That was called faith.
No. Look, that's how the pilots, Second World War, right up until GPS flew, until we, just after the war, they started getting electronic. But the point is, being an entrepreneur is similar to that. There's so many unknowns, so many things you cannot see. Your best laid plans, can go south in a heartbeat. And the question is, what do you do about it when it happens? The main issue is resilience. My grandmother used to say, I don't know, you guys ever play with a Spalding? You know what a Spalding is?
Yeah, little blue ball. The bird
It's
or
a
the
rubber ball.
Yeah, the blue ball.
Yeah, but the old rubber balls, they were the best. You played stickball with them, played all kinds of games.
Handball.
The harder you slap it down, the higher it will bounce. And that's the thing that No matter how many times you fall down, you got to get up and you got to bounce. And the best revenge is living well. Okay. And what's the worst thing that can happen to you in life?
Yeah.
The last mistake you will ever make is to die, because that's the only mistake you can't do anything else about and you can't recover from.
Yep.
Okay? So be fearless.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And if I might, Dr. Lowe, I mean, the gears are going off because first of all, it's nice to know that there's a shipmate on board. Of course, you preceded me. I don't know if it was Korea or Vietnam era, but I was the Persian Gulf era aviation maintenance administration.
Okay.
And one of my greatest lessons coming out of the naval aviation billet that I served with Marines, no less, was that most of the work that we do as African people, as a support element for a system, is to keep it going, even though it acts as a leech upon us. And that's something that I want to actually dovetail off. It actually dovetails off of something Brother Campbell said, and something you said, Dr. Lowe, because, well, Brother Campbell preceded something. He said something to the effect of sacrifice and the lack of real dedication that we make collectively, mostly, but obviously there are individual implications too. But you followed something in that same sentiment. You followed with a statement in terms of a reference to Oklahoma and Florida, and I think you're probably referring to Tulsa and Rosewood in terms of the pogroms that African people have suffered in this country whenever we were financially, politically, and socially independent of the larger dynamic, and we were attacked militarily. So it wasn't enough to be wealthy or even politically independent. We had to be militarily effective, which we weren't. So I'm not making a conversation for, ironically, any so-called military response to our oppression on Dr. King's Day, because he wouldn't have advocated that, obviously. Although, ironically, Dr. King, and this is something I want to put to you, Dr. Lowe, because Dr. Lowe, you probably remember that the SCLC deployed the Alliance of the Deacons for Defense during the marches. So while nonviolence was a strategic vision, they didn't shun the common sense nature of self-defense, whether it meant bullets or not. So
they didn't deploy the deacons. They didn't discourage the deacons from attending and participating.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I've heard narratives that they were invited and they were, but that's, I mean, Dr. King owned the 38 Special, so the question.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I don't question the wisdom of nonviolence. I'm just saying there's a place for self-defense, and where African people are willing to die, we usually win. But it's when we turn our cheek that we tend to go along with the integration program that finds us here 53 years later, fighting the same fight Dr. King said we should be fighting in 1968. I mean, 67, because his Beyond Vietnam speech cautioned us to, do better at the anti-war struggle that we should have been fighting, at the anti-materialist struggle we should have been fighting, that while housing and voting rights were important, here we are in 2022, being able to vote somewhat and being able to, live some of the integrated life we won 50, 60 years ago. But we can't even, metaphorically, this system is a sinking ship and we're going down with it, although we could save it because we have the culture to save it. So I guess, I want to stop, I get off the soapbox. I guess the question is, what aspect of our struggle going forward will we finally learn in your eldership? How long do you think it'll take us to learn that our traditional return to our cultural Africanness is going to save America and save the world, rather than us trying to adopt an Americanness to try and save ourselves.
Well, the A part of that is each generation is going to have to learn it for itself. Now, those who are wise will listen to the lessons they are taught. Those who are less wise will have to learn the lessons through experience. Experience teaches. And the fool won't learn any lessons. Now, the question is, something I learned as a kid. I may not have agreed with what my parents wanted me to do at any given time. But quickly enough, I got smart to the fact that it's to my benefit to listen to what they're asking me to do. Okay? I got, as a young college student and a teenager, I came home from college one day, and my parents said, "Get dressed, we're going to dinner." Now, what 20-year-old wants to go to dinner with his mother and father? Well, we went to dinner at aforementioned Jackie Lucky's house. And who's at the house but the dean at Columbia? That's how I ended up getting into Columbia a year early, after 3 years of college instead of doing all 4. These be the laws of the Navy. Many and varied they be. You know that poem?
No.
Oh, send me your email address. I'll send it to you.
All right, I'll make sure you get it.
But ye who are wise will obey them when you go down in your ships to the sea. Okay? But the deck and the carriage of the law is obey. And you get the first thing you got to learn is humility.
Well, listen, when I decided, when Hugh and I talk about this holiday, I said, well, you know what? We'll do a show about Martin Luther King. And I remember speaking to the DA, and Hugh said 9 to 11. Normally, I would say 9 to 10. You say 9 to 11. So I said, all right, let's go ahead. So I said to the DA, don't worry about it. We're not going to go until 11 o'clock. Then tonight she had a headache. So I said, you ain't got to worry about it because we're going to do 9 to 10. And she said, well, I'm going to be there for you. And I said, we're out of there by 10. Well, I'm just saying there's something about Hugh. Maybe it's something that the lawyers know that I don't know. Because I could have tell Albert 9 to 10. I tell Jeff 9 to 10, and I'm there with this 9 to 10.
Well,
but when it comes to knowledge and it comes to what we're doing here, it can go forever. And that's why I made sure that I excused the DA and the Bronx Board president and Senator Jamal Bailey, because we know, just like all of us got to wake up in the morning. And Dr. Lowe, I know you probably don't sleep like some of these Shara Queen and these young people that sleep and say, I need 8 hours sleep. Otherwise, we'll be talking from 12 to, I don't know, Albert probably up at 4. I don't know if he sleeps. But
well, let me tell you something. Since my second year of medical school, okay, we used to work 36 hours on and 12 off. if you could get the 12 off, which meant that basically you learned to sleep in. If you got to sleep in a whole block, you slept for 4 hours in a block. And Jeff, you served in the Navy. If you served watch, you know, watch standing was every 4 hours, 4 hours on and 4 hours off. My secret is I have no problems taking a nap. We used to call it a combat nap. Okay. Take your nap when you can. You know, as a resident at Harlem and Lincoln and Jacoby, you know, you were going. Your priority was to get some sleep when you could, and eat if the food was available. But you had to keep your eye on the mission. And in those days, it was take care of patients. And you hung in there until you couldn't hang in anymore.
Wow. So they had me fooled lately. Everybody said, "Girl, you ain't sleeping. You need 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep."
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, someone said to me, "Oh, I sleep so much until my back is hurting or the side is hurting." So I said, "Maybe it's too much sleep." But we think that all the sleep in the world is what's going to get us to be your age. So we prove them wrong tonight from the expert, Dr. Lowe.
Well, like I said, if you slept 8 hours a day, every day of your life, you slept 1/3 of your life away when you reach your grave.
Well, tonight we, as Albert say, we have to come back. There is so much education, and I heard Shara Queen, who is calling out someone to say we got to share this live. This is great information. So when you hear young someone saying that, it says a lot, and it means that we have to start to educate the people. I always hear Albert talk about college, and I learn a lot from him. And lately, I've been so quiet. Sometimes Hugh Campbell got to call and look for me. But I said, I'm here. I learned to be behind the scene and doing, because Albert always use a term, and I hear Hugh use it. You know, you ain't got to be out there saying what you're doing, you know. It's not all about saying, as Jeff said tonight, what we're doing here in Mount Vernon. I don't speak about it. It's not something I have to speak about, you know, but it's so much work that is getting done in the community, and I see the change, and people have to get involved in more. People have to get more involved. And as Darcel, our district attorney, says, the work is not just for the DA or for the attorney, it's for everybody. Community, we have to come together to make the change. And Dr. Lowe, it seems like we could sit here for another 3 hours and listen to you and don't sleep, you know. And you'll be back. We have other shows to talk about that. I can see that Albert was ready to say sleep, but you woke him up a few hours ago. I saw that. So I guess he won't mind come back, because it's good to talk about this, because I heard him talk about college and his daughter, and whether, you know, college is not for everyone. And it's good to hear from men like you, Dr. Lowe.
If I could just give Al, if I could give you just a word, encourage your daughter to pursue the college.
Oh, she's going. She don't have an option. She's going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's going. There's not an option.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I think after I want to make clear. Entrepreneurship. She doesn't, after college, she doesn't necessarily need to go punch a clock. She could own one of my businesses, right? So, or she has a choice, right? So the message for the listeners, and the message that we want to put forward, I want to put forward on future shows like this and podcasts that I do, is entrepreneurship is important. You don't necessarily need to go and punch a clock. I worked for corporate America. I worked for the city for a little while. All those hospitals that you mentioned, I worked in those hospitals as the TV man. I used to be the guy to shut the TV off when people didn't pay. Somebody had to do it.
I'm glad you open up tonight and tell me, Albert.
Oh,
I got to
yeah,
look
yeah,
into you now.
You know,
That's
somebody
okay.
had to do it.
I testified against your company.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
In a lawsuit for one of
Yeah.
my patients.
Exactly. So I used to work for those guys, and then after, a couple of years later, I did that during high school and college, right? That's how I put myself through college. And about at least 10, about 11, 12 years ago, I work for a large company, a very large company, global company, the one of two black directors of a global company. And the best thing that ever happened to me was one of my white directors called me the N-word in an email. I'm the director of IT, right? Information technology. You're gonna put that in an email. Like one of my guys, every time he hits delete, I want you to copy it. The guy hit delete like 357 times. And I vowed to myself that I would never work for anyone again the rest of my life. So I'm like, I gotta go look it up again.
Hey, Albert, they asked me, Dr. Lowe, what hospital are you with? I'm not institutionalized any longer.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. So she has to go to college. It's not even a choice. But after college, she has many choices.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you what my dad told me. He said, son, you get an education not to get a job. You get an education so you make your own job.
Correct.
Yep.
Something to we learn every day. You get an education not to get a job, but you get an education to create your own job.
That's right.
And I will be honest that since I've met people like Albert William, who is young, he's proud to say his age, and attorney Hugh Campbell, who seems to be around for 100 years, I've learned from the best. Yeah, not quite yet.
Yeah,
But
Hugh's still a youngster. I remember when he joined Al.
Yeah.
I've learned from the best. I thank Jeff Monroe also for believing in me and pulling me on board and say, come on. And when I sit there and listen to all these men, I say, I'm so empowered. And I now understand what you say, Dr. Lowe. You get an education to create your job. But one of the things that you said earlier that made me blush was when you say we don't have that. It's a word Albert used. You said it. You don't believe in yourself. You don't believe you could do it. You don't have the money to do it. Self-confidence. And many times I listen to Albert, and many times I listen to myself, and I see all that I can do. And I can be my own boss. I can educate people. I can hire somebody. I know what I can do, but you don't have that where you believe you can do it. And sometimes, as you say, you don't have the funds to start it. And even though we hear they have all these money they want you to start your own, it still seems so difficult sometimes to get the funding to start your own business.
But you see, Ari, that's when the brainstorming comes about, like Albert is mentioning, because we have to start getting together and exchanging ideas. That's something we tend to don't do a lot of because we all live in our own little space. Yeah. And, because everybody's got a phone and they can do everything from, text, email, Facebook. We don't come together and have a collaboration as to different ideas, different needs, different resources. I mean,
we don't have a barbershop anymore.
Right. How many times do we know of resources and do we say, you know what, let's share the resources that we have. If someone needs something, share that. If someone have something, share that. I mean, we don't do that. And I think that's what we need is that sharing community. We need that community where we can engage on a regular basis.
That's what we as Black students at City College did back in 68 and 69.
About
we
5
got
years
together and all of us ended up in medical school.
About 5 years ago, I was a member of a mastermind group, 156 men. And nothing against women. The guy that ran the group, he said he couldn't mentor women because he's not a woman. right? Which made perfect sense to us. So there was 156 men in this group, and how many of them were African American? If you were to take a guess,
Was it
Two.
one?
two,
Two.
two,
Okay.
two. Me and another guy, right? And it tells me that our people, one of the problems we have is we don't invest in ourselves, and when we know something, we keep it to ourselves, right?
Mhm.
You know, I'm not in the medical business. I'm not. I mean, it doesn't matter. I talk to my competitors all the time, right? Because I can't pick up all the people in the Bronx. I don't want to pick up all the people in the Bronx, right? So we don't invest in ourselves. We don't invest in our communities. And a mastermind group is something like you said, the barbershop, Dr. Lowe. I used to own a barbershop, right? You ain't got no hair, but I used to own a barbershop.
Yeah,
And let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question.
you got a
Doc.
beard.
Let me ask you this question, though, Doc. Serious question, Avro. Serious
Yeah.
question. How come you got hair and I don't?
Me?
Yeah, you got hair. You got like more. You got a whole head of hair.
And Jeff,
But I mean, and Hugh, I don't understand what's happening here. Where did I
because
go wrong?
you're young, you still got time for growth.
Oh, okay.
Well,
right, got
let me appeal.
All right,
Let me
Jeff,
appeal
you can
to
laugh
your-
out loud. It's okay.
Let me appeal to your ego. It probably has more to do with your testosterone.
Oh, here we go.
A high level of testosterone. You know, the more testosterone, the less of this.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, it's such a good thing. I mean, we don't want the DA to know that we're still here after 11, because I think if she had bet me, she would have won.
Should've won.
And I guarantee her, oh no, we're not going to be there this long. You could hold out. But I should have known when it comes to Attorney Hugh Campbell, and we have someone like Dr. Lowe and Jeff. I listen to Jeff speak sometime, and Albert sometimes. I say, Albert, I don't want to bother you because sometimes I feel his hands is full. He's doing 50 million things, but that says a lot when people are busy. But I want to thank everyone, because it's your education that helped me to know where I'm going, what I need to do, what I'm not doing enough of. And one of the things that I need to build on is confidence, because as I always say to Hugh, why is it I can go out and beg for everyone and talk for everyone and rally for everyone, but when I'm in need, I don't know how to ask for myself? And that's the confidence that I need to break out of, is being able to say, I need it, I need. And maybe that's, I could have been further if I knew how to just ask for what I want.
Part of it is what my pastor told me once when I was in need. Pride is a sin.
Right.
The sin that holds you back.
Pride is for losers. That's what I say now.
What?
Pride is for losers.
Mhm.
Well, no, but it's the pride. It's the pride that holds you back from asking for what you need.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
But-
People are afraid to say. People are afraid to say I need help or I don't know. Right. And there's a lot that I don't know. Right. And so that's a fact.
Yeah.
But let me add one thing in terms of tonight's program, and I just want to say for Avril, I think you should be lauded and congratulated, because again, your program is normally 1 hour, 9 to 10. When we spoke about it, and I said, no, we had a lot of ground to cover. This was a special day, and I suggested until 11. And I just showed you because I felt that, this was a day of sacrifice. And you stepped up and said, you know what, I'm going to go that distance. And everybody on this program went that distance tonight and gave that extra hour, because that's the thing that I think that we all need to start, developing that need to sacrifice in order to get where we need to go. And you should be congratulated and thanked for, making this platform, this forum available so that we can go past 11 o'clock tonight.
Well,
Thank you so much. And I would definitely let the DA know tomorrow that we went until 11:15.
Yes.
And I'm going to let her know it the information. We know that we have to splice this show, and I have to put this segment out there because someone else need to take this and run with it. This information just cannot just go. And we know after the show, it's promoted. And I was told through social media, some of my shows that they promote after. But when it comes to the elected officials, I have to get a certain thing signed off on Facebook for them to promote the show. It's all kind of red tape when it comes to politics. So,
Oh,
but this segment I definitely have to push because more people need to hear this information. It's nice to hear Jeff ask a question or Albert ask a question. It means that every day of our life we're learning and we're learning from someone else. So
Absolutely.
we don't know enough and we could never know enough. And Albert, I really want to thank you for giving me your time tonight, and thank you for
This is
being a
way past my bedtime.
way past it. Thank
Way
you.
past. My kids put me to sleep. My kids tuck me in. My kids tuck me in. They come and say, "Daddy, have a good night." Yeah. I'm already
That's
asleep.
right. And thank you so much, Problem Phipps. Thank you. He said great information, very informative. Jeff, thank you so much for, I can say thank you to everyone here. And I don't know, maybe that's why I'm always, as Dr. Lowe said, driving in my car by myself. My passenger seat is always empty because I always surround myself with great influential people and great men are always there. So thank you. And as of tonight, I'm going to tear down that wall that been holding me back for so long. That wall of being afraid to tell Albert what I really want to do. And he's always pulling it out of me. And I know he's there. And I know Attorney Hugh Campbell is there. But why I still cannot ask? The pride. So we have to get away with the pride and open up and be that door that we open to other people. And we'll be coming back with part two of this kind of segment because we have so much information to share. And Jeff, I'll be definitely joining you on Thursday. So
And Jeff and Dr.
Yeah.
Lowe, my email address is sent to you in the chat, so definitely you
yeah,
guys should have it. And if I could be of any service, by all means, reach out to us.
and
All
I'll
right?
definitely send it out to everyone, or I'll have Hugh send it out
Okay.
to everyone so we'll exchange and have everyone information.
that's you, Jeff. Albert.
Yes.
Okay.
AJW. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And
Jeff,
Jeff,
you can send me.
everyone will be getting Hugh what I
Yeah, I'll send
always
the email around. I'll
that's right.
circulate the email.
And it's funny, I was saying tonight, an attorney, Hugh Campbell, who's so busy, I call him my co-host. And I'll say, Hugh, can you send out this email?
Hey, Avram, you're keeping Hugh too busy because
Yes.
we got other stuff to do. So, Hugh, we got a lot of work to do.
Don't worry, when I sign off, I'm going to my next office.
All right, very good.
Well, I think even though we have a lot of work to do, man, Albert, I thank you for believing in my dreams and everything I set out to do. You're always ready. I think Jeff get disconnected by accident. Yeah. So I really thank you for being there for me and for the things I want to do. And I step out on my YouTube channel to start. They said, rebuild it. And I was looking at having over 21,000 views on something on my page that they took away from me. And not took away, but it's now Google. So I said, okay, let me rebuild my Google channel so I could start to put this information out there to someone out there who is in need of this information. So thank you for everyone for believing in me and helping me to grow. And Dr. Lowe, I'll be reaching back out to you and I'll be like, Hugh, send Dr. Lowe an email for me. So we'll be back with this forum because we have some different topics to talk about. And Albert, as you heard, because we know you're in the community with your taxi company and we hear about Best Deal, someone say, oh, that's him. Because I guess they hear Best Deal, but they don't look at thinking it's some young man who's running Best Deal. So when they say, oh, that's him from Best Deal, yes, this is Albert. So support your own, support your community and keep your community striving. Because imagine we call up some of these companies that when they lost something, they can't find it. But one thing Albert going to tell you right away, oh, I know who the driver is. And you're going to get it done. So we got to support each other. Instead of talking about we're not getting anywhere or people are not getting anywhere, but when your people are trying to get somewhere, where is our people to support us? We got to support each other.
Wow.
Yep.
You know what that commercial says? It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you,
And-
Sister April. This was a
Right.
pleasure. It's good to meet you, gentlemen.
Same here.
Pleasure's all mine.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Good
All right.
night,
Good night.
everyone.
Stay well.
Winds and following seas.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Good night, Dr. Lowe.
Good night, ma'am.
Albert. Good
Bye.
night, Jeff.
All
And
right.
Good
good
night.
night, Attorney Hugh Campbell.
All right. Very good.
Good night.
Thanks to my listeners.